On this episode of China Uncensored, you've got a little bit of acid on your face right there. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your man behind the Iron Curtain, Chris Chappell. You know, it's a little ironic in a way that Edward Snowden, the NSA whistleblower, first chose China as a place to go to, considering the way whistleblowers in China are treated. This is Li Jianxi, or at least what's left of him. He was a truck driver in Guangdong province until he quit in 2012 to write several online exposés linking local communist officials and businesses to organized crime and some serious corruption allegations. That must have made him some pretty powerful enemies because on July 9th, as he was driving his 6-year-old son downtown, someone slammed into the back of his car. When he got out to take a look, 3 men jumped him, threw sulfuric acid on him, slashed his wrists with a knife, and stabbed him in the right eye. And of course, Lee said he couldn't run because his 6-year-old son was there. So yeah, Snowden, you picked a place that really values whistleblowers. Of course, Lee is only the most recent in a long string of whistleblowers coming to bad ends. Remember that whole toxic milk scandal a few years back? You know, the one where Chinese dairy companies were knowingly putting highly toxic melamine in their milk, and it ended up killing at least 6 babies and giving 300,000 others severe kidney damage? Well, we have Jiang Wei-suo to thank for that. He was an operator of a dairy company in Shanxi province. In 2006, he raised the first cry about what would become an international scandal, but was ignored until 2008, when the problem was nearly killing hundreds of thousands of babies and communist authorities couldn't hide it anymore. In 2012, after leaving a meeting at a dairy company, he was brutally attacked by a group of 9 and later died of his injuries at a hospital. Now you might be thinking, well, since a lot of the dairy companies had to carry out mass recalls, losing a ton of money, and the public has all but lost their faith in China's dairy industry, there were probably a lot of people with a vendetta against Jiang. And man, if that group of mysterious attackers were linked to a scandal that seriously made Chinese authorities lose face, well, don't worry, Chinese authorities found out who was behind this insidious attack: his wife. They did some investigating and found out that she was in the group of people who attacked him on the way home, and she stabbed him because he had a drinking problem. And authorities even arrested her, and after a little while in detention, she confessed to murdering him. Speaking of confessions while in detention, just in May, a court in Zhejiang reversed a 2004 death sentence given to an uncle and his nephew for a rape and murder charge when it was discovered their confessions came through torture while in detention. I don't know why I brought that up. Seemed relevant somehow. It was only about 10 years they spent in prison. Then there's 85-year-old Gao Yaojie. Have any of you heard of an AIDS village? Probably not, doesn't get much press coverage, but in the 90s, an unregulated blood-selling scheme promoted by officials in Henan province left up to 1 million people infected with AIDS in this single province. The Chinese regime tried to cover it up by arresting and beating the villagers infected with HIV who tried to petition. Gao Yaojie is one of the reasons they failed in hiding the story. She ultimately had to flee to the United States in 2009 after a stint in house arrest.